So let's talk about how I initially lost the weight. I had been introduced to CrossFit, and during the introduction, one of the areas that they talked about was following a paleo diet to help eliminate, some of the inflammation that occurs, because the CrossFit workouts are really, really intense, and they're metabolic conditioning, and it helps if you're not, completely sore all the time. And so anyway, they did this 30-day challenge, where, you're just doing paleo and following a paleo diet. And previous to that, I believe I had been following the Zone diet. So with the Zone diet, it is making sure that you're having, it's been so long, but it was, percent of, protein, carbohydrates, and fats, and you're having them at the same time, and to make sure that, you're not having any blood sugar spikes and that kind of thing. And the Zone diet really does work, but it is so super boring. And a little bit hard, at least I found it a little bit hard to figure out, sort of my own recipes on Zone. So I follow some that were either on a book or sometimes online, and I just never really found that I could maintain it for a very long time. I did like the way I felt on it, because I didn't really have sort of, ups and downs when I was following it. But anyway, so I started CrossFit, and then started doing the paleo diet, and it was very shortly into it, I think less than 2 weeks, within like 7 days. The thing that I found was that I no longer had a stomach ache. And the paleo diet has you eliminate all sugars from your diet, all grains, all legumes, so no beans, no, things like hummus, peanuts, that kind of thing, because peanut is a legume as well. And so, no, like things like oatmeal, no wheat. So your main sources of protein are going to be lean proteins, so it's not like Atkins, or ketogenic diet. So it's sort of lean cuts of meat, a lot of vegetables, fruits, and sweet potatoes, I think, were the only sort of approved carbohydrate, because there was a lot of debate during that time, at least when I was doing it, on whether white potatoes or red potatoes were okay. But sweet potatoes definitely were a tuber that was allowed. Anyway, so that was the end of that. And then some nuts was the main concept of that diet. One thing that I will say is that when I was following the paleo diet, like I said, within 7 days, I think, I did notice an improvement in my stomach. I never realized how often my stomach actually hurt after eating, or in the afternoon, or sort of evening time frame. I was either gassy, or just had stomach cramping or something, and I had it throughout my childhood. It wasn't something that was just that I got as I got older. It's something I totally had growing up. And my mom did as well. She always has like stomach issues and things like that. And so I thought it was sort of kind of normalish, and whenever, I always made sure that I worked out during the mornings, because I knew that at night or in the afternoon, I would probably have a stomach ache, and there was just no way I was going to do that at that time. I just knew it, just like, it was a given. I'd have a stomach ache at the end of that afternoon, and so I wouldn't, I couldn't go, really. And so that was the one thing, the benefit of the paleo diet, it was right away. And I also, though, I did combine it because I had just been coming off the Zone diet. I did combine it and weighed and measured my protein. I didn't so much my vegetables because it wasn't like, vegetables don't have like a lot of carbs or carbohydrates. I did weigh things like, sweet potato when I had it, and or tracked how much fruit I had, but that was pretty much it. And so I think the reason why I stuck to it for so long was because it made me feel better. Like physically, it made me feel really good. And I was losing weight on it for sure. And a lot of it, I think, had to do with the fact that I was sort of weighing and measuring my food at that point. It was the way that I could control things. And I was doing CrossFit. I was doing it like 2 or 3 times a week. So it wasn't like a ton. I definitely got stronger, but I know now that I was under eating. And so I was kind of like this little lean bean, trying to, grow in mass and grow my muscles and stuff like that, and wanted to do better, but I had no idea about really, feeding your body for performance. There wasn't really anybody to really explain that to me, that, you really do need to eat in order to, 1, grow muscles, and 2, to have enough energy to do this. So I was pretty much running on fumes and, trying to kick ass and, not trying to come in last, really. I did really enjoy CrossFit a lot. I know it gets a lot of shit sometimes about, for what it is and stuff. And I had some amazing coaches that were more interested in, not your performance or how well you did on the, workout of the day or the WOD, what your time was, and, but they were more interested in making sure that you, lifted properly, that you learned the basics, and, it's like if you needed to slow down in order to, not lose form, then you slow down. So I really appreciated that. I think I learned the most about lifting while I was doing CrossFit. So hats off to them. I still, in some ways miss it on occasion because the workouts were intense, and, that community was there, and everybody cheering you on, and, and everybody just, trying to encourage you and stuff. And it was really cool. It was really a great experience, especially coming out of, this situation where I had been, as you saw in my last videos, I was very isolated. And so to be able to come from sort of that isolation and not having a lot of friends, and into that kind of community where, people are cheering you on, and, there's like things going on, and, it's just like a little unit of something better. So I really did enjoy my time then. While I was doing CrossFit and paleo, I was going through a divorce at that point. And I do know that I remember, actually, because I was starting to lose quite a bit of weight, that, I was sort of meeting with my counselor, my personal counselor, and, she brought up that concern. It's like, are you over controlling your food? How do you feel about that? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine, but looking back, I know I really was. It wasn't just about accurately measuring, it was making sure that I never overate, like, to a T. So it was the one aspect, like I said, it was a control issue for me at that point. It was the only thing I could really control was, sort of myself. And so I made sure, it's like, okay, today I'm having 2 ounces of meat for each meal, and I would meal prep, and that's what I would get. And then I would worry about, having too much fat in the morning, so I'd have 1 egg and maybe 1 egg white, and consider that, 2 proteins or something like that. And I didn't notice that until much later, that that's what was happening. But fast forward, you know, a few months, battery died. Anyway, fast forward to a few months and after my divorce, and I started hanging out with new girlfriends that I met, who were either recently divorced or in the process of getting a divorce. That was one of the items that my personal counselor had suggested, that I make some, you know, single friends and stuff as I was moving into that area. And so I did, and, you know, and then that's when, you know, the happy hours here and there happen. And I had gone from sort of non-drinking for years at a time to, you know, when I was when I mean occasional drinker, I was like once every 5 or 6 months, you know, or none at all for years. And this was, you know, into my 20s. So I never really went through that like a lot of people do, where, you know, a lot of drinking, partying, or dancing or anything. I sort of missed that whole area because I was already married, and married to somebody that couldn't or shouldn't be drinking, and so we just didn't, and I didn't. But because I was still living on my own, being able to control my food was still a thing that I was doing. So there wasn't like a lot of weight gain from, you know, alcohol and stuff, and it wasn't that often. It's like once every couple weeks, or once every, you know, maybe a couple of weeks sometimes. We would go out for drinks or something like that, and some snacks, but I was still pretty much following sort of my paleo diet, and making sure that, you know, I love cooking for myself, and so that was one of the things that I still prepared all my own foods, and didn't eat at work or didn't go out to eat a lot. You know, went home, had my own meals, that kind of thing. And then fast forward a little bit longer, and then or not that much longer, I met my now current husband, Paul, and he was in really great he was really physically fit, and which was very attractive to me. And but he was definitely an intuitive eater, you know. Meanwhile, I'm like portioning control everything, you know. He was intuitively eating, and had throughout his entire life. I guess he'd always weighed the same thing, you know, 20s, 30s, 40s, and now he's in his 40s, and, you know, never had any issues with, you know, diet, or I think he had issues gaining muscle because, you know, as an intuitive eater, he didn't eat a lot, to be honest, and sometimes I felt like I was eating more than he was. But, you know, he sort of like cycled as far as, you know, sometimes he'd eat more, sometimes he didn't, and it wasn't planned, it just the way it worked out. So I switched him. He had told me that he had some fibro issues. So he had fibromyalgia, where there's just a lot of inflammation and pain in his back area, and had been out of work. I think it was like a year before, or there was a period of time in his life where he had actually been out of work for a while, sort of on disability for a short time due to the pain that he was in. And so he was taking a lot of pain medication, and in order to control that, and, you know, anti-inflammatories and that kind of thing. When I met him, I know that there were times when I was able to, you know, like lightly rub his back, and other times when I couldn't even do that because there was some inflammation that was bothering him. Anyway, I had learned a lot about, you know, sort of paleo, and it, you know, how it helps with inflammation, and so I asked, you know, would he be willing to do paleo for a while and see if that helps, for about 30 days, and then 30 days turned into, you know, after 30 days, you know, for me, after a week, I already knew that, you know, sort of like my stomach issues were good after a week. For him, he really didn't find any discomfort or changes in his body until after 6 weeks. And then after 6 weeks, he was like, okay, I'm not feeling that pain anymore. And then, moved this many years later. It's been about 6 years now, and he doesn't have any pain. Even though we're no longer doing paleo, which is really fascinating. But we did paleo together for many years, for maybe like 2 or 3 years, maybe a little bit longer than that, and then just kept the gluten part of the diet for a very long time. So paleo really worked for both of us at that point. Where it didn't work, where paleo is very restrictive, is we started to socialize a lot more. We started to have parties. We had martini parties. We had just sort of theme parties, wine parties, and then on top of that there was a boating and friends parties and happy hours. And then what we were seeing is during the summer we would slightly increase weight the whole entire summer. And for somebody like my husband, who had always been the exact same weight throughout his 20s, 30s, and 40s, this is the first time that he started gaining weight. And some of it, of course I got the blame for, because he's like, it's your cooking, because he really enjoyed my cooking and didn't know how to like stop eating. And and at the same time, with all the partying and stuff, I'm starting to gain weight, because I'm like, well, fuck it, I'm just having a good time and I'm enjoying myself. And so that's what it was. It was just, we were having a good time and enjoying ourselves. And so I think it was like 2 years ago, I decided, okay, we sort of have like this yearly goal setting trip that Paul and I do in the beginning, sort of very, very beginning of the year, right after New Year's or around New Year's. And things that I started writing down personally for me was, I want to maintain this specific weight throughout the year. And I want to learn how to do that, right? And so that's what I was trying to do, is like, how do I continue to learn how to maintain my weight? So it was more about learning than about that's what the goal was about, learning. How do I learn? So I never felt bad if I didn't actually meet that weight or stay on that weight, because it is a process. And I knew it was a process after all these years. And so my thinking was, I want to learn, right? So, and part of it is trial and error, right? So so I didn't berate myself or feel bad if I didn't meet the weight specific goal. It was more about the learning process, and trial error is going to be it, right? I think that's when I started like Instagram and started looking in there and following people that were sort of bikini competitors and looking good, and I'm like, I want to kind of look like that, and maybe they know something that I don't know. And so it was the first time I think I approached a coach and signed up with one, and Paul did too. And so we started a meal plan at that point, because I'm like, I want to attain that body and I want to learn how that diet works, or what are they magically doing in order to get that kind of fitness and stuff. So we did that last year was the first time, and it was part of the learning process. It's like, well, what do they know? Or, should we try that? And so we did. And then I like meal plans, because again, it's still that, tracking of things and measuring things. But at the same time, I didn't, because it's like, if I had a glass of wine, it wasn't okay. And then, I'd get this, comment like, well, the reason why you're not improving is probably because you're drinking. And it's just like, it was a glass of wine, so I didn't really quite understand how that worked. And it was really frustrating. So, and I definitely felt deprived and stuff, and I've never been like a huge binge eater. But you know, when I had my, you know, my 1 day cheat meal, it would turn into a cheat day for sure. Or, you know, I would just like consume so much during that cheat meal, and it was just it was really odd for me to be in that mindset where, you know, I just have to like shovel all the stuff in because this is going to be my one meal, and then I'm going to go back to my boring, you know, Monday through, but I think at the time it was like Sunday through Friday meal where I ate the same thing every single day. And it wasn't something that was working out for me. So anyway, meanwhile, still doing research because I still want to, I'm like, I know there's got to be something out there that will help me to better maintain myself and to improve what I'm doing today. So I heard about macros and tracking your macronutrients. And so I wanted to give that a try. And that's what we're going to talk about in the next video.